start off right now, before we get into your speeches, with giving you a few little points about delivery. Because there's really two aspects to speeches. One is the content, and one is the delivery. One is the structure and locution. The other would be the elocution, the way in which you say the words. So I'm going to start with that first, and we'll take a little notes here. If you'd like to jot this down, you can. What would you say is one of the first things very important for people to pay attention to when they are delivering a speech? Anybody, what do you think? Yes? Volume. All right, so there would be volume. If people can't hear you, they will quickly become bored. In fact, they may even just walk out or go to sleep or read a book. I bet all of you have been in a situation where you couldn't hear too well. Isn't that so frustrating? So volume, perfect. What else would you consider to be very important? Speed. Speed. Speaking too fast, speaking too slowly, speaking at the exact same speed without changing things. All three of those could make it more difficult to follow the idea. Excellent. What else would you consider important? The accuracy of delivery. Yeah, so your accuracy. If people are stumbling over their words, that's so frustrating, isn't it? And although every speech you give may not be memorized, your ability to speak from notes and to be organized and not forget things, very important. What else would you consider to be important in speaking? Yes, posture. Posture. Why would that be important?
Because you don't want to be rocking back and forth while you're speaking. You don't want to feel like moving around too much while you're speaking.
Really, that would irritate people if you were kind of feeling unstable a little bit, or if you're hunched over, you look a little weak, or if you're too stiff, you look a bit nervous. Yes, I would agree. Excellent. What else do we have that would be important in the public speaking delivery? Yes, Elena, sorry. Contact. So eye contact? Yes, absolutely. Eye contact is so critical. If you are in a talk and someone is just staring at kind of one person the whole time, then how do the people look at their feet? A bit left out, do they not? Or if you're afraid to look at anyone and you're talking to the wall, that can be rather disconcerting too. Doesn't anyone hear? And then, of course, the eye contact gives the speaker a lot of feedback. Right? If people are smiling a little bit, oh, they got my joke, they understand. If you look at someone and they're staring out the window, that might give you a clue that one of these other things could be a problem as well. And of course, my goal in speaking to an audience, even hundreds of people, is to make eye contact with dozens of people within the first few minutes, so that they're looking at me, I'm looking at them, and I would guess that everybody in this room, if you've been looking at me at all, have noticed that I've looked at you at least once, and probably many times even in the short time we've been going. All right, anything else? What comes to mind? Yes, sir. Enunciation. I hope that's spelled correctly. What do you think? Because we say pronounce, we have an O. But enunciation, someone is probably hard to understand what they're saying. Speak out multiple times. So that idea of speaking almost more clearly than you need to, because you need the volume, you need the clarity, so that it can travel to the back of the room. Critically important there. What else? Yes?
Taking things seriously.
Taking things seriously. Meaning don't get too goofy or silly. So having, could we say the demeanor, the proper demeanor? Sure. I am, of course, a big fan of humor in teaching and speaking. I actually have a whole hour lecture called Humor in Teaching and Speaking. But I try not to get too silly most of the time, because then that lowers my credibility. On the other hand, if you're too serious, right? If just everything is just too weighty, that can get tired and depressing, can't it? I recently came back from a conference where I had to sit through an hour-long lecture on what is classical education. And the person, God bless him, read the entire speech. So pretty much just the whole thing, reading. I was sitting way in the back. I could hardly hear. I don't think he smiled one time the whole talk. Guess what happened to me? Yes, Joey, exactly. I fell asleep. And it was so embarrassing. I couldn't leave. It was a banquet. I was stuck. And I was just, that feeling of, that happens when you get old, wake up. But I couldn't even do that because, it was this formal setting. So sometimes too serious of a demeanor can be as problematic or worse than too silly of a demeanor. But what else would be important to you in public speaking? Yes. The structure, the organization, absolutely. And that has to do a little bit more with the content and the planning. But have you ever heard a talk that just kind of rambles and says one thing and then says another thing that's rather disconnected and another thing and then they repeat the other thing and you think, what is this person trying to say? You ever had that feeling? Kind of a frustrating feeling, isn't it? Yes. Anything else that comes to mind? Yes.
Smiling.
Smiling. Absolutely. I have been a teacher my whole adult life, and I have very early in the game realized that when you smile at someone, it's virtually impossible for them not to smile back. Right? If you just go out and you intentionally just beam a smile at someone, they pretty much have to smile back. And if they don't, pretty soon they crack up and smile anyway because they know how hard they were trying not to smile back at you. And interesting information about smiling, it's impossible for anyone to remain angry while they're smiling. It just dissolves the anger, dissolves fear, and it can cover, I would say, a multitude of errors. Right? If you can come in with a cheerfulness. So hopefully, many of you, when you give your speech here, will attempt to overcome whatever nervousness you might have and just start out with a good, strong smile. What else do you think is important?
Like uses of words, like appropriate words for the talk.
Oh, yes. Vocabulary, right? Absolutely. The vocabulary of formal speaking is quite a bit different than the vocabulary of informal speaking. What are some words that you would probably use when you're talking to your friends that you might definitely want to avoid when doing a speech. Oh, lots of ideas. Cooper, what do you think? Like. Probably the number one overused word. Tiana? Stuff. Yes, problematic. Stevie? Yes, Elias? Fun. Well, you could probably use fun, but you want to supplement that with other words, such as what?
Enjoyable.
Exciting. All right, yeah. Yes, those would be called verbal crutches, where you're not quite sure what you're going to say, and so you use this kind of, little thing to you got me, keep you going there, so that people will listen, and it does help you know what you're going to say next. But if you can avoid doing it, that's even better. Joey.
Another word would be cool.
Cool. Things that you would use with your peers. Whoa, dude. Cool. Awesome. Like, you should have seen it, man. That kind of vernacular. That would only be appropriate in a speech where you were trying to act like someone who would use those particular words. So the vocabulary, attention to detail in which words you're using, very important. Anything else in the whole idea of delivery or elocution? Yes?
If you want to be positive, not so negative about it.
Sure, unless it's something you should be negative about. But could we use the word energy? Would that make sense? Because there's a certain value in having some energy. If you've ever seen a speaker, much as the one I mentioned that I fell asleep during his talk, he was rather low on energy. And you can't blame him. I think he was about 80 years old. But there is something. And what types of things show or bring energy to a presentation? What would you say? Yes? Passion. So your true feeling comes through. And when your true feeling comes through, you might use a bit of humor. You might use some gestures. Right? So if I just kind of stand in one place and keep talking, and I'm saying what I want to say, and it's very important, but there's no physical energy, then the whole energy level can kind of go. But if I get over and I get close and I say, do you realize the importance of the energy? Then you feel, oh, that's something else. What do you think?
Yeah, I think facial expressions.
Facial expressions? Sure. And a lot of people get a little bit nervous in front of their peers. I have read, and I'm not sure if it's true, that the number one fear of Americans is not acrophobia, fear of heights, is not arachnophobia, fear of spiders, but it is the fear of public speaking. Now, I don't understand that because I love public speaking. You know, if you said, stand in front of 100 people and talk for an hour, for some of you, to me it's not enough people, not enough time. But the idea of getting comfortable in front of peers so that you can free up your face, right? And when you're saying something a little sad, have a little bit of sad. When you're saying something a little exciting, look a little exciting, and when you're saying something very fearful, you can look. Usually when you're talking about politics, right, it's either sad or fearful, or humorous. And then if you come across something really good, then you can think, wow, that's so cool. All right, anything else? This is a great list. I don't think I've ever had a group that came up with such an excellent list totally. Yes, Andrew? Attire. Oh, I like that one. Yes, because most of us tend to dress very informally most of the time. Even you go places like offices and churches where traditionally people have been a little bit better dressed, you're just as likely now to see jeans and t-shirts. And of course, clothes don't make the man. But I did find this very interesting quote by Mark Twain. I thought it was rather humorous. He said, clothes make the man. Naked people have had very little impact on society. I don't know why that struck me as so funny, but it is a statement of style, isn't it? So if I were here, dressed in an old t-shirt with ripped jeans and muddy shoes, would you think of me as being a professional? You'd kind of think, okay, he's just a guy. But because I'm wearing a suit, a tie, and blue pants, shiny shoes, I look smarter, even though I might not be. Right? I might be just a guy, but you're going to look at me a little bit more seriously. So if you need to give a speech, getting that extra little bit of style, professionalism, and dress can be helpful. But what a great list. Anything else? Anyone else have anything to add to that? Yes? Interaction. How would you define that?
Asking people to do stuff for you while you're speaking.
Okay, so talking to people, asking questions, encouraging them to answer. That's a great one. Let's put that on down. In this group, it is very easy to have some interaction because it's such a small group, and I can ask a question and you can volunteer an answer. But if there's 1,000 people, then it's a little bit harder. But you can actually create some interaction. One of the tricks I learned early in the game is if you want people to respond to you, and you say, who here has ever been nervous in front of a group? And now, if you raise your hand, guess what will happen? All the people who have been nervous in front of a group will feel free to raise their hand, right? One, right? Who here intensely dislikes eggplant? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people raise their hand. Now, some people may dislike eggplant a little bit. Some people who like eggplant. Oh, wow, that's a shocking above average. But only certain dishes. But I can get a little bit more interaction. Then when people raise their hand, then they feel like, oh, you're connecting with them. Very good observation. Anything else on this list? Yes, Stevie.
Persuasiveness.
Persuasiveness. Yes. How would you define persuasiveness?
It's trying to get people to accept your point of view.
Trying to get people to accept your point of view. And really, this would, in a way, depend on almost all of them, wouldn't it? Because if you have good volume and appropriate speed, posture, if your eye contact is good, if your voice is clear, if the structure of your argument is well done, if you use good vocabulary and smile, then you'll accomplish, in a way, that persuasiveness, won't you? That's almost like the apex of the thing, the accumulation. Good, wonderful. Well, that is a superb list. And I think we will have an excellent class, given the fact that you've pretty much covered everything on my list already. So as we do our speeches today, and I know that some of you have prepared a little more than others, some of you have had time to practice a little more than others, but as you do your speech today, we will want to think about how are we doing these things, both when we're doing ourselves, am I getting the eye contact, do I have enough volume, am I speaking clearly, have I avoided saying, and then we will also evaluate each other. Now, one of the tools that we use in this class is a tiny little form called speaker evaluation form. And what we do is we give everybody enough of these so that they can evaluate everybody in their group. So if we have 20 children in class and 20 people are going to be speaking, that would be, how many forms would we need? A little math, right? Yeah, about 400 because you would be doing 20 other people, or 19, instead of 19 times 19, what's that? We've got mathematicians here. But so we'll have a whole pile of these things, and each one will get. And the goal here is to help each other, because it's hard to see yourself. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever listened?
Adolf Hitler once said, if you make the lie big enough, they'll believe it. So today I hope you believe every single lie I tell you about myself, which is pretty much everything. My name is Stephen Solwire. My first name I was named after my dad. My second name was my great uncle's second name. And my third name, of course, is my family name. My birthday is June 17th, 1998. I'm the last of 5 children. My sibling names are Molly, who's 22, Raul, who's 20, Frank, who's 16, and Joey, who's 14. And I also have 2 nieces, aged 5 and 3. A large part of my life centers around my education, my activities, my friends and family, and my faith. I've been homeschooled since the age of 4, but my mom almost gave up on me on the second day, teaching me phonograms. However, now I find reading one of my favorite activities. Some of my favorite books include The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William L. Scherher, Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot Mysteries, Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis, and The Rise of the Roman Republic. My father's retired, and he has been able to teach me. Some of the classes that he has taught me include math, navigation, used to live on a sailboat in Baja, and geography. I also currently take science, Shakespeare, Latin, and music. I also enjoy playing in St. Louis Physical Youth Symphony, where there's an orchestra, and I've been doing that for a year now. Someday I hope to go to college and study perhaps mechanics, law, or medicine. And as I said, I have 1 sister, 3 brothers, and I'm the youngest of 5. I enjoy swimming with my brother Joey at the Puma Swim Club, and I've also been biking on the Bob Jones Trail, which is near Applewood Beach, and that's been a lot of fun. Yearly, I go skiing at Mammoth Lakes, which is in Northern California, and also I enjoy sightseeing and traveling across the U.S., and I've been able to visit some family members. Some places that I've visited include Glacier National Park, Mount Rushmore, and Yellowstone Park. This October, I'm going to Washington, D.C., where I hope, amongst other things, to visit my sister at Patrick Henry College. Some of the places that I'll visit include the Pentagon and the Capitol. That's going to be really fun, and I also hope that I'll be able to do some other things there. I also enjoy playing with my friends. Some of the things that I enjoy doing are Legos, or recently boogie boarding, making movies with my friend David Maloof, and playing me with my cousin. My favorite thing this summer, though, was my trip to Minnesota. There, our great uncle Jim showed us the area, and that was really fun, and he told us a lot of funny stories of the past when he was younger. Some of the places that we ate at included the Yacht Club and a burger and mall restaurant called Snuffy's, where the food was simply delicious. But the most important part of my life is my faith. I hope to grow my faith in general throughout my life, control my temper, which I've been able to do with the help of Christ and the help of my parents, and also witness to other people in the Lord's name throughout my life. Some of the theology books that I've read include Wayne Grudem's Systematic Theology. So this year I'm going to study some writings of C.S. Lewis, and by the way, all these things are not lies but the truth. And so I hope to grow my faith all my life, as I've said. I hope to continue with my education as far as college, or however far God leads me. I enjoy the family God has placed me in, because each family member has helped me in a specific way that's made my life a lot better, and I would not be here without them, so I like to thank them. And I hope to spend my life around Matthew 6, 19-21. Do not lay up yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and thieves break in and steal. But lay up yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, thieves do not break in and steal. Where your treasure is, your heart will be also.